The Porsche 911 GT3 RS has been around since the 996 generation, and then came the 997, the 991, the 991.2, and then now comes this, the 992 GT3 RS. If you want a car that has razor sharp handling, then you buy a Porsche 911 GT3, and if you want to take that razor sharp handling and make it even sharper, then you buy a GT3 RS. With the all-new 992 generation, it will be even crazier than ever, more powerful than ever, be faster than ever, and of course we can't forget the main star of the show, the glorious sounding, naturally aspirated flat 6. The all-new Porsche 911 992 GT3 RS is finally here after such a long wait of prototyping, that's not even a word. After prototypes, testing for years actually, we have spy shots, rumors, and so much of speculation going around, but after all of that, it is finally here. And let me just say, another masterpiece is coming, but that begs the question, if the GT3 RS is just coming out in 2022, when will the GT2 RS come out? So if you're new to my channel, please subscribe down below to help me achieve my dream of becoming a successful YouTuber. I make all types of videos on this channel, from everything from car reviews to short videos to informative videos, my personal redesigns, and I even make basically anything a car guy would want in a YouTube channel. So make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified every single time I make a new video. But if you haven't already heard, the brand new Porsche 911 992 GT3 RS will debut on August 17th, 2022, which at the time of this recording, it has not been debuted yet, but it actually has been leaked, like literally right before the time of this recording. And here you can clearly see the crazy aero that this car has, and actually there's something that you did not expect with the aero, and we'll get into more details about that later on in the video whenever we discuss the design. So if you want to skip to that, don't skip it, because there's some valuable information in this video that you should definitely watch. It has been no secret that Porsche's newest RS car has been in development, and Porsche has actually teased the car so many times that they have clearly been testing the GT3 RS, because what else would it be? Alright, the 2RS. But we've known that the GT3 RS has been in development for over 2 whole years now, so just expect this car to be absolute perfection. Just like every other Porsche product that's a sports car, mainly the 911, but also the Cayman GT4 RS, that thing is pretty sweet. So it begs the question for me, if Porsche developed the 3RS for around 2.5 years just to make everything perfect, just imagine how much more perfect, I know that's not a word, but just imagine how much more perfect the GT2 RS would be. But in my world, the GT3 RS is literally the perfect car. It has been no secret that Stuttgart's latest RS car has been in development, and actually it has been teased by Porsche several times. We have so many like press photos of the prototypes and all before the actual debut, and then as I said, it just got leaked right before the time of this recording. But if you didn't know, this car has been in development for over 2 whole years now. And this begs the question and makes me think, when will the lap record dominating GT2 RS come out? Oh, and speaking of which, the all-new 3RS might be aiming to be the fastest car around the world-famous Nürburgring in Germany, which the current record is 6 minutes and 43.616 seconds, held by the brand new Mercedes-Benz AMG GT Black Series. Now, it's going to be pretty difficult for Porsche to achieve the fastest Nürburgring time because the GT3 cars are naturally aspirated, which means they don't have the most power and not the fastest acceleration either. But the GT2 cars are turbocharged, which means more power usually, definitely much faster in the acceleration category. It just doesn't have the soul that the GT3 cars have. And this means a lot less RPMs in the rev range to play with than the GT3 cars. And also, the sound is pretty muted from the turbo engines. And here, just take a listen to this, to the Porsche 911 992 Turbo S that we recently reviewed for a YouTube video. Just take a listen to this. It sounds like a Dyson, I'm sorry. Speaking of which, which, if you haven't already checked out this video right here that I did, a review of a 992 Carrera S with a 7-speed manual transmission, please go check this video out. Link in the description down below. You'll definitely enjoy that video, and it was a very awesome video for me to make, and also a very fun one. So yeah, you'll definitely have fun enjoying it. But there are definitely more benefits to the Porsche's naturally aspirated engine because they are just tuned to perfection. Although every single Porsche engine is tuned to perfection, but the naturally aspirated ones, they are like the gods of engines. I actually prefer the naturally aspirated engines in Porsches because the turbocharged Porsche engines paired with rear-wheel drive are just too powerful, while the GT3 engines are just perfect and they have the right amount of horsepower and the sound that literally no one can hate. And of course, you cannot forget the instantaneous response that comes when you push the throttle pedal. But since we're talking so much about engines, let's get into the real heart of this brand new beast. So, the glorious flat 6 naturally aspirated engine will stay, but the displacement and power could be crazier than we ever expected. So we're talking 550 horsepower coming from a 4.2 liter flat 6 engine. That's a lot. Now, these are just rumors for now, but the assumptions came a few days after Porsche revealed their brand new 992 GT3 R track car, and that vehicle has the brand new 4.2 liter naturally aspirated flat 6 that Porsche developed, so the road-going GT3 RS will definitely take inspiration from the GT3 R track car, including things such as the aero, the wings, the front splitter, all that good stuff. Porsche is still sticking with the rear-wheel drive drivetrain for their brand new RS car to save as much weight as possible, and if you don't know how much Porsche is obsessed with saving weight on cars, I think a few £100 will definitely make a huge difference, considering that Porsche literally doesn't even use a real Porsche emblem. They use a little sticker that you can like pull off. For the proud ownership of a Porsche, they have a sticker on it. So my assumption for the weight will actually be more than the outgoing 991.2 GT3 RS, which is one of my favorite cars of all time. That car is just absolutely perfect. But back to the weight. So I think it'll actually be more than the 991.2 3RS, which weighed around 3,153 pounds, and I predict that it will weigh more than the outgoing model because the 992 Turbo S weighs around 50 kilograms more than the 991 Turbo S. So, and also the 992 generation is a bigger chassis. It's a bigger car overall than the 991s. The 911 generations, as each generation goes more and more into the future and modernized, the cars just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Just take a look at the 993 and then compare it to the 992. It's like night and day
when you're talking about size.
If you don't know the 992 lineup already, well, even if you do know it, I'm gonna teach it anyway. This 992 generation of the Porsche 911 replaces the 991 generation that came before it. It starts out with the base model 992 Carrera, then sitting above that is the GTS, and then the all-new Sport Classic, which is really limited, but basically a detuned rear-wheel drive manual version of the 992 Turbo, which sits above that. Then the Turbo S, which is even faster than the Turbo, which was already stupidly quick. And then there's the Turbo S lightweight, which went on a strict diet and lost around 200 pounds, which makes it do 0 to 60 in just 2.2 seconds. Just wrap your head around that. But then there comes the GT3 cars, and so far we just have the 992 GT3, which is a masterpiece of engineering, but we still don't have the GT3 RS. Until now. Then sitting above the 3RS will be the 2RS, which will be even faster, but who knows when that car is going to be coming out, and I think Porsche is going to take their very
slowly time. That's not even a right pronunciation.
But I think Porsche is going to take things very slowly with the 2RS to tune it to absolute perfection, because the old 2RS was actually at one point the fastest car around the Nürburgring before the Aventador SVJ broke that by Lamborghini, and so I think the new one would be looking to take the lap record just like the 3RS would be. But I'm going to keep my hopes high up for the 3RS because usually Porsche just underrates their cars and how well they could perform. So we'll just keep that in mind, that Porsche could be cooking up something really tasty over here.
Gosh, I can't breathe in this hot studio area. Oh my gosh.
This new RS car will adopt the double wishbone suspension that was fitted to the 992 GT3, which was actually the first time in history where a Porsche 911 had double wishbone suspension. It will also keep the swan neck style rear wing, which means that the spoiler is held by struts held up by the top rather than the bottom, which generates a lot more downforce when it's at the top, but I'm not going to get into all of those physics today. And it will also keep pretty much the same exact front bumper intake as the GT3, as the 991.1 GT3 kept pretty much the same front bumper as the GT3 RS, same thing with the 991.2, and basically, yeah, you get the point. But there's something that this car that absolutely no other RS car has, and that is active aero. There's been so much speculation saying that Porsche is trying to hide their secret active aero, and the reason I say secret is because it is supposed to be hidden beneath the bodywork. And this actually isn't new news.
New news.
But this isn't actually new news. This has actually been like spied testing on the streets, and you could actually see the active aero in works. I'll play a little video on top and I'll overlay it, but yeah, you basically, it's really hard to tell. Just basically think of it as Lamborghini's ALA system, which stands for Aerodynamica Lamborghini Attiva, which basically has hidden active aero that sits inside of the wings, the splitters, and hidden active flaps that raise and lower throughout parts of the car. Except this is a Porsche, so yeah. The new Porsche GT3 was already glued to the road because of the downforce, so this will be even more glued to the road, if that kind of makes sense. And that is because the GT3 RS is basically a crazier version of the GT3, which is already pretty crazy, and seems pretty much tame in comparison. We can't claim any 0 to 60 mile an hour times yet, but Porsche will most likely reveal those times and the weight and all of those specs of the car later on, a few months after August 17th. But as I said like a minute ago, Porsche usually underrates their power, and usually they end up making more power than what they advertise, and they usually perform better in a straight line and on tracks than what they advertise. So that is actually really good. At least it's not like some car manufacturers, I'm not going to name a few, just so I won't get canceled by them, but some car manufacturers, they really overrate what their cars can do.
Gosh, I can't talk.
But you get what I'm trying to say. My assumptions for the 0 to 60 mile an hour times or 100 kilometer per hour times is around 2.9 seconds, which is reasonable for a car that has around 550 horsepower theoretically and rear-wheel drive only. Now let's talk top speed. So the previous model, the 991.2 GT3 RS, could reach a top speed of little under 200 miles an hour, 193 miles per hour to be exact. So I would predict this car will have a top speed of 193 miles per hour. I say this because,
Well, just look at the car first of all.
it has so much cuts and wings and splitters that will disturb the aerodynamic efficiency of the car in favor of extremely precise handling that can take corners like it's nothing. Yes, it will theoretically have 40 more horsepower than the outgoing GT3 RS, but more power doesn't always equal everything. Just look at the aero of this car. If you have all that power, you're gonna need a higher top speed, but you can't really achieve that higher top speed if you have so much aero disturbing the top speed of the car. I said top speed like 5 times. But just compare the aero to the outgoing GT3 RS. It has a much bigger wing, and the old wing was already extremely big, and there's also a lot more vents protruding out of the front, so sacrifice top speed for razor sharp handling. Plus, there's a really low chance that you'll ever take your GT3 RS to a 200 mile an hour top speed, or even 180 miles an hour, because this car isn't about that. It is about dominating the corners. Something that will also affect its top speed will be the absolutely thick body that this car has, and that is because Porsche wants this car to have as much grip as possible. The standard 992 already looks a little, well, bloated in the rear, and it's really wide, a little too wide for my taste, but then they had to make the GT3 even wider, and with the RS model, they have to make it even wider than the GT3, so I'm assuming maybe 2 inches or 1 inch of extra width of the car. The front definitely looks much wider than the GT3 if you just take a look at the leaked photos, but we will talk about the design later on in the video, so again, stay tuned for that. But I don't know if it's just me, or does the GT3 actually look like better proportioned in the rear than the standard 992? Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are about that. But anyway, let's talk about design. So if you already don't know, I have a little bit of an obsession with car design, and I think the GT3 is an absolute masterpiece of engineering, as I said, but also a masterpiece of car design. Porsche chose function over form, and if you want form over function, you get the 911 Sport Classic, which is absolutely gorgeous, or you get the GT3 Touring, which kind of looks a little bit weird in the front just because of those 2 nostril things, but the GT3 Touring is basically a
GT3 without a wing, yeah.
But as I said like 20 seconds ago, the rear of the GT3 992 generation is perfectly proportioned, and the front of it is a little bit debatable because of the nostrils that it has, but I didn't actually like it when it first came out, but now I think it is absolutely beautiful. And it is actually much simpler than you might think, even though it can still like perform that good, it still is a really simple design. A side intake will be visible for the 3RS, just like as on the outgoing GT3 RS. Now the 992 GT3 doesn't have a side intake, but that's pretty common for the GT3 cars. If you want a side intake, you'll pretty much have to go to the turbocharged cars or the RS models. But guess what? Neither did the testing of... As you can see in this clip right here, you can clearly see that there is no side intake on the car. It's pretty much flush. So I thought actually that it would not have a side intake and that it would have some sort of roof scoop that is integrated to get air inside of the engine. But now we know, after we saw the leaked photos and countless renderings, that we know for a fact that it does have those side intakes that we all love. Now it will interrupt the design of the car, those wide hips that the 992 has. Yeah, it's going to be cut a little bit. Rear vents behind the rear wheels are there to extract air, as well as behind the front wheels, which look like a literal hypercar sort of thing, which is so freaking awesome. But the front hood is probably the most noticeable aero bit changes, besides the absolutely large and controversial wing for some people. But the big nostril looking vents aren't there anymore, but instead there are massive square thingies that extract air to produce more downforce, and they just look kind of controversial to me. But overall, I think the design is good. I don't think it's great, and I do not think it is elegant, and it is definitely not elegant because of everything that is like distracting the beautiful body lines of the car. There's not really much elegance in this car. The same deal will be with the 2RS. If you want elegance, you might go with the Porsche Turbo S or a Turbo or a Sport Classic. But if you want blistering lap times, you get a GT3 RS or 2RS, but the 2RS, I'm pretty sure it'll have like 750 horsepower, which is too much for the rear wheels. But that is basically it for today's video. If you did enjoy today's video, please give it a like and subscribe down below if you haven't already to help me achieve my dream of becoming a successful YouTuber. I make all types of videos on this channel, from everything from car reviews to my vlogs to my personal opinions to redesigning cars to short videos and basically informative videos too, such as this one kind of, but you get the idea. Basically every single thing a car guy would want in a YouTube channel, so make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified every single time I make a new video. But tell me what you think about the brand new 992 GT3 RS. I think it is going to be an absolute track monster, as I've been like boasting about. I kind of have a thing for the naturally aspirated Porsche engines. I just think they're just some of the best cars in the world. But if you did enjoy today's video, please leave it a like, and I hope to see you in a future video, and bye for now. Whoa. So my